Addis Ababa, a city of over 5 million people, perched high in the mountains at 2,355 meters above sea level, and the beating heart of Ethiopia. From its crowded markets to its expanding skyline of glass towers, the capital is changing fast. But Addis Ababa isn't the only story. Ethiopia itself is undergoing one of the most significant urban transformations in Africa. Cities are growing at breakneck speed, infrastructure is reshaping landscapes, and millions of young Ethiopians are moving from rural life to the hustle of urban centers. This is Ethiopia's urban boom, and it has massive implications for the country's future. Urbanization is nothing new in world history, but for Ethiopia, it is a relatively recent phenomenon. For centuries, Ethiopia was defined by its rural economy and scattered settlements. Even in the mid-20th century, when most African countries were already seeing rapid urban growth, Ethiopia's urbanization rate remained low. In 1960, only about 6% of Ethiopians lived in cities. Compare that to today, when the figure is closer to 22% and growing quickly. Demographers project that by 2050, more than 40% of Ethiopians could be living in urban areas. That's a massive shift for a country that is currently home to more than 120 million people. At the center of this transformation is Addis Ababa, a city founded in the late 19th century by Emperor Menelik II. Unlike many African capitals, Addis was not a colonial creation. It grew organically as the seat of Ethiopian power. Today, it's not just Ethiopia's largest city, but also the headquarters of the African Union and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. That makes it a political hub for the continent, as well as a growing economic magnet. Addis Ababa's urban boom is visible everywhere. Skyscrapers are rising in the central business district. Roads and highways are expanding outward into the surrounding hills. Ethiopia even built a light rail system in the capital, launched in 2015, the first of its kind in sub-Saharan Africa outside of South Africa. While the system faces challenges, it represents Ethiopia's ambition to modernize transport and reduce congestion. Housing, however, is one of Addis Ababa's biggest urban challenges. The city has experienced a construction boom, with high-rise condominiums, apartment blocks, and new suburbs sprawling outward. But demand far outpaces supply. Many residents still live in older, densely packed neighborhoods known as Sefers, where infrastructure is limited. The government has launched large-scale housing projects aimed at relocating families into modern apartments, but critics argue these often displace low-income residents and create affordability issues. Balancing modernization with inclusivity remains a central question for Ethiopia's urban planners. But Addis Ababa isn't the only story. Ethiopia's secondary cities are also on the rise. Mekelle in the north, Hawassa in the south, Bahir Dar by Lake Tana, and Dire Dawa in the east are all growing rapidly. These cities are regional economic centers, attracting investment and serving as gateways for trade. Hawassa, for example, is home to one of Ethiopia's largest industrial parks, which has attracted textile and garment companies from around the world. These industrial parks are part of Ethiopia's broader strategy to create jobs, diversify its economy, and link urbanization to manufacturing growth. Infrastructure is central to this urban transformation. Ethiopia has invested heavily in roads, railways, and power generation over the past 2 decades. The Addis Ababa Djibouti Railway, completed in 2017, links the capital to the port of Djibouti, Ethiopia's main gateway to the sea. This railway has been crucial for trade and urban supply chains, though it has also faced financial and operational challenges. The road network has expanded dramatically, with new highways connecting cities and reducing travel times. Hydropower projects, including the massive Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, aim to provide the electricity needed to power growing urban centers. All of this is reshaping Ethiopia's society. Rural-to-urban migration is a defining trend. Millions of young people leave the countryside each year in search of jobs, education, and better living standards in cities. This has created a vibrant, youthful urban culture. Addis Ababa, for example, has a thriving music and art scene, lively cafes, and a reputation as a hub of Ethiopian creativity. But migration also creates pressure on infrastructure, housing, and services. Schools and hospitals are struggling to keep up, and informal settlements continue to grow. Ethiopia's urban boom also has an economic dimension. Cities account for a disproportionate share of GDP, employment, and investment. Manufacturing, services, and trade are concentrated in urban areas, driving national growth. The government sees urbanization as a potential engine for economic transformation, moving Ethiopia from a primarily agricultural economy to one that is more diversified and industrialized. However, unemployment, especially youth unemployment, remains high. The challenge is not just to bring people into cities, but to ensure that cities generate enough jobs and opportunities for them to thrive. Culturally, Ethiopia's cities are places of diversity. Addis Ababa is a melting pot of ethnic groups, languages, and traditions. Migrants bring with them local foods, music, and customs, enriching urban life. Festivals and markets reflect this cultural mosaic, making Ethiopian cities vibrant and dynamic. At the same time, urbanization can create tensions as different communities compete for resources, jobs, and political influence. Looking ahead, Ethiopia's urban boom presents both opportunities and challenges. On the one hand, cities can be engines of growth, innovation, and cultural exchange. On the other, they can become centers of inequality, congestion, and environmental stress if not managed carefully. Addis Ababa already faces issues with traffic, pollution, and waste management. Climate change adds another layer of complexity, with droughts and floods affecting urban water supplies and infrastructure. For Ethiopia, the future will depend on how it manages this urban transition. Policies that focus on inclusive housing, sustainable transport, job creation, and infrastructure development will be key. The international community is also watching closely. Ethiopia's urban boom is part of a broader African trend. The continent is projected to have some of the fastest-growing cities in the world over the next few decades. How Ethiopia handles this transition will have lessons for other countries as well. In many ways, Addis Ababa symbolizes the paradox of Ethiopia's urban future. It is both modern and traditional, booming yet struggling, ambitious yet challenged. Walk through the city, and you might pass shiny new buildings next to corrugated metal homes, bustling highways next to donkey carts, high-tech offices alongside traditional markets. This coexistence of past and future defines Ethiopia's urban journey. So, what does the future hold for Ethiopia's cities? The answer is still being written. The energy of a young population, the ambition of national projects, and the challenges of rapid change all point to a complex path ahead. Ethiopia's urban boom is a story of transformation, one that will continue to unfold in the coming years. And for anyone considering traveling to Ethiopia or learning more about its cities, it's important to do your own research. Conditions can change quickly, and urban life can be very different depending on where you go. Ethiopia's cities are full of opportunities, but also challenges that require careful understanding. From Addis Ababa's growing skyline to the industrial parks of Hawassa and the lakeside charm of Bahir Dar, Ethiopia's urban boom is reshaping the country. The next decades will determine whether these cities become engines of prosperity or centers of struggle. Either way, Ethiopia's urban future is one of the most fascinating stories in Africa today. Thanks for watching. Have you ever visited Addis Ababa?